What is up, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Start, Build, Grow Show. Man, I'm super excited for this interview. We're going to hang out and have some amazing conversation today. We're going to be talking about how to buy back your time and how to truly create freedom in your life as an entrepreneur and as a human and an individual. So if any of those things relate to you, you're going to want to stay tuned and hang out with us today. All right, welcome back. My man, Andrew Hathaway, Hathaway Companies. He's got a number of companies, and we're going to share and dive into your entrepreneurial story. But we've had a chance to connect, man, and it's been amazing to connect with you. And I'm really grateful to have you on the show. I'm excited to share your story and have you connect with the audience too, man. Welcome in, dude.
Hey, good to be here. And shout out to Randy and what he's doing. We had a chance to hang out, got breakfast the other day. If you're coaching with this man, he is such a great human being. I was encouraged by his perspective on faith. I was encouraged by some of the stuff he's doing with his clients that he coaches. And I love what his mission and purpose is all about on this show. So it's an honor for me to be here. Thank you.
Oh man, thanks, brother. I'll send you your check, dude. Appreciate the plug. So let's dive into it, man. So this is a show about entrepreneurship. We have a lot of, I'll say, blue collar, service based companies. A lot of roofing contractors. Home service contractors, exterior contractors that listen and chime into this show. A lot of new, young, old, aspiring entrepreneurs, and I really like to share the entrepreneurial journey. I think that's going to be a great place for us to really lean in today. And I think we're in a space in our world right now where there's a lot of challenge and there's a lot of people experiencing challenging. There's a lot of, adversity out there, a lot of economic, weather-based challenges, a lot of tumultuous things going on in our government and in our society. And it's creating this, I think, a lot of uneasiness and a lot of challenge and a lot of difficulty. So I'm going to kind of share your story a little bit. How did you get into entrepreneurship? Let's kind of dive into, I like to always go back. When did you know and how did you become an entrepreneur?
So let's see. So I used to be in college ministry. So back in the day after I graduated, by the way, shout out Davidson College. I was there during the famous 2008 Elite 8 run. If you get around me, I'll talk about Steph Curry. My wife kind of rolls her eyes. My friends roll their eyes. But so right after college, I went into college ministry and basically spent a lot of time building a college campus ministry at UNC Charlotte. Such an amazing, life-giving time. Giving my life away, I felt like my life had meaning, had purpose. And after college ministry, I kind of thought the next thing for me was to become a pastor. So I went off to seminary and I was miserable because I felt by and large like seminary was training me to be on defense. And I liked being on offense. I was like, I want to have that next conversation with someone who may not believe what I believe. I want to overcome barriers, figure out how to kind of, bring alignment and help them help their life improve. And so while I was in seminary, I met these two Christian twin brothers, serial entrepreneurs of all places at my CrossFit gym. And I was kind of in misery. I was, about to hit Old Testament, Hebrew and Greek. And, my classmates were debating about different types of angels and stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is not a fit. And I met these two twin brothers in my CrossFit gym. Their names were Jason and David Benham. You may or may not have heard of them. They travel the country speaking with Tim Tebow and, the guy from Duck Dynasty, Willie Robertson. And these two guys were so charismatic. They were giving their lives away. They had built a multi-million-dollar franchised real estate business. And they owned a little strip mall in Concord, North Carolina. They had their real estate business, which they had sold 30 or 40 franchises of those. And then in that same strip, just like any old strip mall that might have a Great Clips or a Subway or whatever, they own the entire thing. They had a marketing agency, an accounting agency. They had a property management company. They had 10 companies in this one little strip. And in that little strip mall, they were doing so much ministry. They were giving their lives away. They were leading Bible studies. They were, doing probably more ministry than I felt like seminary was going to train me to do. And I was like, well, I just want to be like these guys. And so that started a 10-year journey of entrepreneurship, kind of a wandering in the desert period, where I wound up starting a college financial planning business. That's right. College financial planning, which was a very profitable business, but ultimately led me to a mental breakdown. And, you mentioned this whole concept of buying back your time. One of the mistakes I made in my first business, Randy, was that I did not pay close attention to my time and my energy. And so as that business grew, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners probably can identify with this, I basically became a glorified admin at my own company. Sometimes if you've ever, if you're married, there'll be times where you're arguing with your wife and you're like, wait, why did I marry this person? I think every business owner has like that type of a moment where you start this business, you want to have freedom, and it ultimately winds up kind of running you instead of you running the business. And that's exactly what happened with my college funding business. It was super profitable. I thought it was going to create freedom. At the end of the day, it was kind of just a big hamster wheel. And so that led me to a mental breakdown. Sorry, long answer to your question here. On the way to the mental health clinic, I picked up a copy of a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Yep.
And it perfectly described why I had my mental breakdown, which is I had backed myself into a corner where all I was doing was administrative work. And so I had basically hired people to do all the things that I like doing. I hired someone to do marketing. I hired someone to do sales. I hired someone to do branding and Facebook ads. And all the while I was kind of sitting back and I was just basically servicing everybody. And so that caused me over the course of time to basically have a mental breakdown, which God rescued me from and provided healing and wholeness. And so I shut that down about a year ago and I started 2 new businesses. God told me to create freedom for business owners. And so we do that 2 ways. 1, amazing executive assistants overseas, and 2, artificial intelligence, which I believe is just a tool to create freedom.
Love that, man. And that's a big topic. And we'll dive into that because it's everyone's leaning in or trying to figure it out or trying to lean in or trying to learn more.
Yeah.
So we'll dive into that, I'm sure. But you touched on something that I think we can all relate to. And it's funny because, the old adage of, sometimes we start a business to, and we end up working 80 hours to avoid, working 40 for somebody else, and it happens. It happens quick. We start a business for whatever that reason is, and one of the things I learned that when I was early on, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. One, I couldn't really work for other people very well. Like I always felt like I had a different way or better way to do things, so to speak. But for me, it was like, it was driven by like either a chip on my shoulder or ego or, this like desire to like prove everybody wrong that I can do this and I can do it on my own and whatever those reasons are. And those are some of the reasons I started my business. And I did find myself in that same spot of doing all the things that like I kind of felt like I had to do to make it happen, so to speak. But I was literally not working in my strength zone. I was not working in my superpower. And it took me a while to figure that out. And for me, it was bankruptcy. I lost everything, depression. Like there's a lot of, homelessness, the whole 9 hours. I went through it all to get to the realization I think God had for me. It was like, hey, 1, you're doing this for the wrong reasons, first off. And 2, like, hey, let me help you. And it was amazing because once I figured out that like there's a lot more value in life and business when I put my energy towards like creating opportunities for others and putting the right people in seats and doing the things that I wasn't so good at, or I knew I shouldn't be doing, or I didn't want to be doing, or really, and some of it I'm good at, but I didn't want to, or maybe I'm good at, and I didn't need to be doing it because it wasn't having the best impact on the business. Right. So I think there's a huge thing to be said about like finding that passion, finding your superpower, so to speak, and then building a team around you and hiring the right people around you to allow you to work towards spending the majority of your working life within that quote unquote superpower. And, what about your journey in doing that? I mean, because it sounds like you went through that same type of thing.
Yeah, well, so you mentioned something I think is really powerful, and a lot of people don't think about this. Obviously, your time is valuable, but I would also argue your energy is valuable. And so I'll never forget this. I was meeting with a friend of mine, and he was like, when I go in every day, I know that I only have so much energy in my battery, and the things I do either charge it or drain it. And one of the powerful things about some of Dan Martell's teaching, so he wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time. Mm-hmm. He teaches you to value your time. He talks about the buyback principle, how you can afford to delegate, automate, eliminate things in your life. But as you go throughout your day, are the things you're doing, not only are they things that you are good at, but are they things that give you energy, right? Because if you go throughout your day and you're doing a lot of admin, you're putting out fires, right? You're handling a lot of customer service related tasks. At least for me, I know that's what drains me. Then you're actually doing not only your company a disservice, but your clients as well, right? Because you're doing something that not only are you not good at, but it drains your energy. The best thing that you can do for your company is to do things that light you up and give you a ton of energy. So for me, I know that if I have a day where I'm doing coaching or I'm doing large enterprise sales, if I'm creating content, right? Those are things that give me a lot of energy. And when I get home at night, I'm a much better father, right? I'm a much more present dad, right? With much more present husband with my wife. And by and large, my team, my company benefits a lot more because I'm a much better leader, right? I'm much more of a visionary. And so I think the beauty of where we are today, Randy, and we talked about AI and VAs, like you can delegate pretty much anything, right? What are the 2 or 3 things that only you can do? Is it closing a large deal? Is it coaching? What are the 2 to 3 things that only you can do in your business? And I would say try to figure out a way to get everything else off your plate, right? Using, I think, a combination of outsourced staff or artificial intelligence or the admin in your office. One of the things that Dan Martell does with all his clients, you could be $1 million business or you could be $1 billion business, is he has the owner or the founder do what's called a time and energy audit. Have you ever done one of those before?
No, but I read all about it. I've recently read that book as well. So
yeah. It's really eye-opening. So I did one recently, and you literally track every 15 minutes of your time. It's super simple. So from the time you wake up, including, when you're, looking at Facebook or Instagram, right? If you're taking a phone call, so every 15 minutes of your time, and you basically assign a dollar amount to it. So is this a high value task or a low value task? And then you also assign, is this gives you energy or takes energy? So made coffee this morning, low value, low energy, right? Closed a deal, high value, high energy, right? And so what you start to look for is what are the things that I can take off of my plate? Because not only are they, I would argue, costing you money because your time is money, but it's also draining your battery, right? Mm-hmm. So I when I did mine, you literally track it for 2 weeks. What I noticed was I was doing a ton of customer service. And I think every business owner can relate to this, right? Ultimately, you're the one that landed the deal. Your name's on the company. So they're going to come back to you no matter what. It always rolls back up to you. And so the first thing I did as a result of that is I basically hired someone for customer success. And she handles all of our, good, bad, anybody's happy or unhappy. Great. Sloane's going to take that and she'll handle the conversation. But getting customer service off my plate, dude, I am such a better business owner as a result of that. And then if you start thinking through this from a way this applies to your company, you're going to want to have the rest of your team do that. Because the best thing your number 2 can do, or your number 3 can do, or your techs can do, is to do what gives them life and gives them energy. So it's an incredibly powerful concept, and it's not really hard to go through and kind of do an audit. It's a little bit tedious, but overall, I think it's a really good use of time.
Yeah, I think just the simple process of just writing down and documenting every little thing you do each day can give you just some incredible eye-opening, things that you're just like, wow, you can see some of those blind spots that you might not be able to see elsewhere, right? And I love that concept too. And same thing with me. It's like going as my entrepreneurial journey. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I have found that it's interesting. It's a quick story. So there's certain days where, like, the end of the day, my wife will even point this out to me, and like if I've been like this, so creating content or doing interviews or coaching, like I've opened up and understood, like I have a deep passion and connection to coaching and serving and helping others, and I just love doing it, and it gives me lots of energy. So she'll notice, like, man, you must have had a lot of coaching calls today, or like I'll get out of a call and go in there and check in on her or whatever, and she's like, oh, she can just tell that my energy is in a much better place when I'm like pouring in and coaching others, right? Yeah. Versus dealing with headaches or putting out fires or customer service or things like that. It's like, or I still do a lot of the sales and discovery calls and stuff like that for my coaching company, right? So I'm doing a lot of that, and it's like, it brings me a ton of energy. So in just figuring that out and trying to, create a cadence for yourself that allows you to spend 80% of your time in those things that bring you all that energy, is just an incredibly powerful way to create freedom. Because
business
at the end
becomes
of the day,
fun again too.
It's fun. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you're doing something for the majority of your time each day that brings you energy that you love doing, it doesn't feel like work anymore. It doesn't feel binding anymore. And I believe that that's freedom. It's not about like less time or less hours. And that's great too. But it's like, I want to do those things. I want to have those calls. I want to take that call and work through that challenge and solve that problem or help that person. Those are fun things to do. So I don't feel like I'm working. Right.
Yeah,
but like grinding through emails, click, like that just drains and zaps my energy. And I feel like I feel like tired and exhausted at the end of the day. Cause I'm just like doing stuff that like doesn't bring me that value, you know?
Totally. Yeah. And it's fun again. Like you mentioned it, like going to work, I actually get excited to go to work again. I talk to a lot of blue collar guys. One of the things it's funny, man, ever since I decided to move in this new direction and actually listen to what God was telling me to do, he's just like, he's blessed it beyond crazy. But so I have all these inroads with all these blue collar guys. And I know that's kind of your audience as well, the trades, the service-based businesses. One that I think is really funny is estimation. I talk to a lot of construction guys. And I know that there's this in roofing too. That's just one of those things. It's like, man, every guy that owns a service or trades-based business, like that's something that takes up a lot of time. And so I would immediately begin looking for a way to either automate that or delegate it. For me, when I was an advisor, financial planning, I didn't like doing it. I was able to create a good financial plan, right? But that doesn't mean that was the best thing for a client or my team. So I trained a virtual assistant to run financial plans for me. And guess what? It got better. I had to teach her like what a 401k was, a rollover, and life insurance and annuities. And so I would begin looking for these things. I know a lot of the trades guys, they have these limiting beliefs around, there's no way somebody, could do this for me. And the world is flat. Like you can find an amazing estimator right now overseas, and there's tons of AI tools coming out. And so those are just kind of the examples of things that the only thing that we can't do right now for you is probably get on the roof and walk it, but everything else can pretty much be done by either AI or VAs. So, and it's a beautiful day now in business. Like you literally can get all the stuff that you hate doing off your plate.
Well, and here's another angle for that too, because in the service industry, i.e. roofing and, trades-based companies, it's almost all of them are cyclical to some point. Whether it's weather-based, maybe you're doing exterior work and you're in a cold climate and you can't work in the winter, or, so you have to be able to build your model in a way that can expand and contract. And you got to be able to do that fairly quickly, right? There's a lot to be said. You need to create training, ability to train, hire and train people, create standard operating procedures, KPIs, like all the buzzwords, all the things you've got to do, run your business by the numbers and systemize everything, which is what I do. That's what I built an entire company that helps contractors systemize everything in their business. But the one thing you also need to be able to do is expand and contract. And having those systems allows you to do that because you can hire and train people rapidly. But if you're in an expansion point of your business where maybe there's no weather event or something happening in the economy that all of a sudden is driving a lot of demand for your particular service, i.e. if it's roofing, there's a hailstorm and all of a sudden you're really busy with roofing. You have to expand really quickly to capture that opportunity. But what we've done and the mistakes I've made in the past is like you hire all these people to help do all these things, but when the winter comes or when it slows down, you're stuck with all this overhead and all these people, and you have these relationships, and it makes it harder and harder to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to like let them down or let them go or whatever. But the next thing you know, you're top heavy and your business is draining money and it's not profitable. So we have to be able to spend and contract. And I feel like AI and virtual assistants is the way to bridge that gap. So I feel like all of us need to have, that capacity, to be able to expand and contract our business. And that's the best way to do it. Agents, AI and virtual assistants.
And I don't know anything about what you just described because I've never owned a trades-based business. I just know that those guys are my people. And so the thought of like my business rising and falling with the weather, I have a good buddy who's an HVAC guy, and he's like, man, Colorado has just been brutal because the weather's been amazing. I was like, oh man, I didn't think about that at all. So the other day, because it snowed, yesterday, I texted him. I was like, "Hey, how's business?" Because there's the ebb and flow when it's hot or cold, and now it's supposed to be like 80 or 90 this weekend. So hopefully that's good for them as well. But the beauty of where we are today, Randy, to kind of tack onto that is you don't have to hire more human beings, right? You just have to get the right butts and seats now and leverage their capacity with tools like AI and VA. So, for instance, your CSRs, you don't need 10 CSRs anymore. You can actually do that with AI, right? And so maybe you need one plus a virtual or, an AI CSR. So it's an amazing time to own a business. And yeah, I would be doing some coaching with you to make sure that we have the systems and structures ready for when the next hailstorm does actually hit, right?
Yep. Well, yeah. And this is my little shameless plug for the roofers listening to this. Right now is the time of year where you should be asking yourself the question, what is my plan when and if we get hailstorms? And what is my plan if we don't get hailstorms?
Yep.
You need two of them. You need two separate sets of goals and two plans of action. In asking yourself that question, you need to be able to think, if I have to expand quickly, how do I do that? Yep. How do I document things? How do I have the systems? How do I have the training in place to be able to grow my staff quickly, hire and train salespeople quickly, ramp up my marketing quickly? You need to have a plan in place for all those things. Now is the time you should be working on that. Obviously, I'd love to have a conversation with you and chat more about that. That's what we do. It's what I'm doing. I literally have a strategic planning event with my entire staff tomorrow, and that's one of our talking points is, what is our execution plan for storm season, with or without storms? And I think in anything in business, we'd be planning and preparing for that stuff. And the more you can have documented, the more you can have written down using technology, Loom videos, AI videos, AI. Ask AI, what's a good plan for XYZ if we get a hailstorm? How do I build out my production department? How do I, hire and train salespeople fast? How do I build a sales system? What's a good process or a step-by-step sales process I can implement into my business? Like, asking these questions, getting that information, having it ready to go, man, you're compressing time in an unheard of way, based on what we ended up having to do years ago, right? Right now, it's unprecedented how quickly we can compress time with AI and asking the right questions.
Some might call it just a job, but they don't feel the weight of it. Rain, snow, heat, aching bones, and late for dinner again. But you keep climbing because families count on you. Homes stand because of you. And that's why we built Peak Performance, the playbook for progress. Real numbers, real insights from real contractors like you. Scan the code. It's completely free because it's more than just a job.
So one thing I did want to talk about, so you kind of touched on it, and I want to get back to energy and time, buying back your time. But I would say, now's a good time to figure out how to get featured on AI. So we haven't really talked about this at all, but I would think any smart business owner, you have to understand that more and more search is happening on AI.
Yep.
And so it's not hard to actually get featured on tools like ChatGPT. And at the moment, a lot of those large language models aren't charging. I think OpenAI was the first one to kind of do that. If you've ever gotten one, the leads are incredible. So people trust these tools implicitly. I know that I talk to Chat literally every day. It knows me inside and out, probably better than most people know me. Right. So now is an amazing time until the hailstorms hit to start figuring out how to get featured on AI search. Basically, that's doubling every 6 months. It's about 10% of all search right now. It's doubling every 6 months. At the moment, they're not charging for it. So as long as you check a few boxes, for instance, fresh Google reviews, your service area is really updated across your business profile and website. There's something called Schema that you want to have on your website. This is something that my firm does, and there's a lot of marketing agencies out there that can help you have higher visibility on those tools. But I'd be getting ahead of your competitors and figuring out how to do that.
I love that, and you just answered my question, because I was going to say, hey man, give us some tips and tricks. So what's the secret sauce here? Like, how do you get what's the difference? How do you get represented on AI versus
the big thing is, so all those large language models are the same. The big thing that they're trying to understand is your business an active business, and who do you serve? So a big way they do that is reviews. And so one of the things you could do to kind of beat the competition, I would have not just a Google business profile set up, I would also have one on Bing. And I know like Bing's out of style, but doesn't hurt to have a Bing profile set up. What the first thing that they're going to look for is to make sure that your service area and what you do is the same across all of your websites and stuff. So for instance, if you're a roofer and on your website, it says you serve, Oklahoma, but on your Google business profile, it says you only serve Tulsa, then the AI search engine is going to be like, wait, what the heck? We can't figure out if this guy is serving here or there, right? The next thing it's going to look for is not just Google reviews and general reviews. It's going to make sure, one, they're authentic, and two, it's going to make sure they're fresh, right? Because if you have 500 Google reviews, but your last one was a year ago, then the AI search engine is wondering, hey, is this guy still around, right? Or has he closed his doors? Third is something called Schema. Schema is just a type of code that goes on your website. It's not hard to do. But this is where I actually really do think, Randy, it makes sense to engage with a marketing agency that specializes in this. So this is one of the things that my agency, Freedom AI, does. We do a lot of marketing for people. It's almost out of every 10 customers, 9 clients just want lead gen. And so I see it. And I'll tell you a quick story. A buddy of mine owns a $6 million HVAC company here in Colorado. And he had a client find him on his Tesla. So the guy was driving. He was talking to Grok on his Tesla. I know this sounds crazy. And on his Grok, on his Tesla, he was like, hey, I need an HVAC guy to fix this thing. And so within 20 minutes, he had a full conversation with Grok, had vetted and found that my buddy Tim with Aim High HVAC was going to be the best fit for him, literally called him from his Grok, and it was a $50,000 lay down sale, basically. Because again, people trust these tools implicitly. So OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, is the first of those large language models to start charging for ads. So now you can actually start just like you would on Google or Facebook, paying to get featured. But for the most part, it's free money. So as long as you kind of have those boxes checked, right? I know that for me, I'm 40. My last 3 contractors I found on ChatGPT. I needed a restoration guy for my kitchen. I needed someone to fix my ice machine, which was the reason I needed the restoration because it was leaking in my kitchen. And then I think I needed a contractor to fix something else in my house. So more and more people are going to be trusting these tools, which is why like Google has been freaking out trying to build up their AI database because they're worried about losing eyeballs, right? And Meta and all these big companies are trying to really bolster their AI development and acumen because it's all about, eyeballs and being the next in this big boom. It's great news for service-based businesses because at the moment it's not hard to get featured, but it does make sense to engage with a professional to make those things happen.
Yeah, I love that. And we talked a little bit more about, from what I understand, content is huge as well. Like fresh, consistent content, blogs, YouTube channels, video informational things like it's funny because I remember like a few months ago, we actually brought on a new member, and I've seen it a few times. I always ask, right, when someone's booking a call with me or whatever, there's like a little form that asks, how did you hear about us? And I've had all of them at this point, Grok and ChatGPT. Like, so apparently we're doing something right to where people are actually finding us on there, which is really cool, And then my roofing company, same thing. When we start getting leads that say ChatGPT recommended you, that's super cool, because I think people do seem to trust those sites implicitly, as you mentioned, and it's like you can't manipulate it. The information is what it is. So, how do you be, from what I understand, like consistent content and those sort of things are what the key is to helping you rank and quote unquote rank or get visible. I mean,
it all matters, right? Because they're going to sort through all of your online presence as well. And the beauty, once again, in an age of AI, you really don't need to do a lot of work to create blog posts. A lot of times, if you engage with a marketing agency, they're going to do that for you. If you're paying for someone right now for your Google and you're trying to come up higher in organic search for Google, blogs are going to be part of the package because that's one of the ways that you get bumped up in the organic rankings is content like blog posts, right? That kind of trigger different keywords. And so very similar. I mean, again, one of the largest language models for search is Gemini, which is made by Google. So they're going to be looking through some of these different online posts, but you could literally create a YouTube channel from scratch these days without having to do a whole heck of a lot of work. But that's why it matters probably that you engage with a professional now on this stuff. I know that for me, it wouldn't be something if I was, roofing or doing HVAC or plumbing. It's not really something that I want taking up a ton of my brain space. So I would probably just engage with an agency that does all that for you.
Yeah. And it seems to me like it's work that needs to be done that, again, we just talked about, like work that we shouldn't be doing as owners. And it's what's your time worth? And it's not a massive investment. You're not spending a ton of money on these sort of things. It's just should be just part of the budget. In this day and age, the companies that are going to win are the companies that are out in front. The companies that are understanding this stuff and out in front of the changes that are happening at an exponential rate than they used to, right? I mean, the Google algorithm changed every few months, every 3 months. Now it's like learning, the large learning models are changing like minute by minute, hour by hour, like not monthly. So you've got to get onto it now and stay involved and stay on it. And, definitely recommended to have somebody connect with on that. So, I mean, on that note, like say I'm listening to this and I want to talk more about it. I want to learn more about it. Like what's the best way to get a hold of you for that?
Yeah. So you could just reach out to me. My email is andrew@hathaway-companies.com. You could also just shoot me a text, 203-273-1873. That's my actual cell phone number. Yes, I'm from Connecticut. What up, Connecticut? So andrew@hathaway-companies.com or 203-273-1873.
I love that. All right. So we went that direction, but I kind of want to circle back, as we, start this process of winding down here. But I believe, and I see this not only in my own journey, but I see this just in the industry that in entrepreneurship, we all get to a point where we face burnout. We all get to the point where, we get to a place where we might be just struggling mentally, emotionally. And I think you had mentioned something about that earlier about how, you were just totally like burnt out and totally in the wrong, business and just completely beside yourself. Like how did you get there? And what did you do to work your way out of that? I think there's some value in having that conversation.
Man, I had to be kidnapped and taken to a mental health institute. So don't let it get that bad. If you even think right now that you're not living in your sweet spot and you're not, using most of your day doing what lights you up the most, like literally, I basically got to a point where I was so miserable. I was so anxious. I couldn't sleep. But I just stayed on the hamster wheel, Randy, because I was too afraid to get off. Because I knew that come hell or high water, I was going to take home what I needed to cover my bills, pay for our expenses, live the lifestyle. But in the back of my mind, dude, I had become a very fearful and empty and anxious person, and I couldn't even sleep 8 hours at night. And so, literally, thank you, Jesus, thank you, God, because the people in my life had the wherewithal to realize that I was not in a good place, and I had to get flown to Florida to find healing and wholeness. But I would start with this, and not to plug my own thing. When God told me to create freedom for business owners, immediately where my mind went was getting an amazing executive assistant. And I think that is stepping stone one to freedom in your business. And you could literally put a gun to my head. You could not convince me to hire an American to do that role, because what I can get overseas is so much better. So right now, while you and I are podcasting, I have Angela, who's a real person. She's in the Philippines. And I know your previous guy talked about it, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes here, but she thinks ahead for me. She thinks proactively for me. She's putting out fires for me. She's booking calendar stuff for me. That I believe is stepping stone one to freedom, is an amazing executive assistant who thinks ahead for you. And I would go overseas for that. And then I believe stepping stone two to freedom is automating your most routine business process with AI. So, for some guys it's estimation. For some guys it's new client acquisition. What's the one process in your business? If it was automated with AI, it's kind of like when we were playing Mario when we were kids. You walk over the mushroom, it gives you a power up. Like, what's that one business process that if you automated it would give you a power up? And those I believe are stepping stones 1 and 2 to freedom in your business. But a really easy place to start, man, just do a time and energy audit, like a simple one. You don't have to do every 15 minutes like I did, but just look at your calendar, and look throughout your day and think, hey, is this giving me energy? Is this making me money? Right. And if it's not, then I would start looking for solutions. It might not be AI and VAs. It could be something else, but I would start looking for solutions to get that off your plate. I know that for me, it was customer service. And I am such a better husband, father, business owner because I got customer service off my plate. And while I know my customers want to talk to me, it's bad for everybody because I'm not detail oriented. I lack a lot of times empathy, and I get in trouble. I get the client or the customer, the company in trouble rather. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but hopefully that was.
I think so, and I know you're preaching to the choir with myself, and I know there's a lot of correlation with entrepreneurs being, high vision, high energy, wanting to like take over the world, but not necessarily great at the details and great at execution, right? So you need to hire that person. I've had an admin or an executive assistant pretty much my whole career, my whole career outside of when I tried to do it on myself and failed miserably. That's one of the things I learned is like, I got to have that person. I've always had that person. So now it's like I have, direct executive assistant that does a lot more customer service, does a lot more things than your standard, EA or VA, but I also have VAs. I have multiple VAs that work for the company too. So I believe in it. I think it's the wave of the future. It's not like, oh no, I'm just replacing jobs. What you're doing is like, you're enhancing the capacity of your stateside employees and your stateside workers, the ones that like you have to have here, especially in the service. You've got to have people who are out in the field, who are executing the jobs, customer service, or doing the work, getting on the roofs and doing the things, doing the set. Like there's a lot of that stuff that is true human interaction. And why not bolster and build the back end at a lower rate where you can pay more and really be intentional about hiring the best of the best to install, to sell, to do the things that someone in the Philippines or someone in the VA can't do. Pay them more,
skilled labor,
not having to pay as much in the back end to then, build your business out that way, right? And being able to scale up and down as demand, changes.
Well, until Elon Musk and his robots take over all the trades, you still have to hire people to do the skilled labor, right? And so I think it's really all about getting better skilled labor. And so if you can outsource certain things or delegate or automate certain things that allow you to have more money in the bank to hire the technician or hire the guy that can swing a hammer, that's what it's all about, because that allows you to do a better job for your clients. And so I would say, 100%. It's not about outsourcing, anybody getting fired or replaced. It's all about leveraging your existing team to grow your company and do a better job for the client.
Love that. All right, man. So in traditional fashion on this show, every time it's about entrepreneurship, I bring on entrepreneurs and I always put you on the spot. I end the show with what we call, and honestly, there's been lots of golden nuggets on this show, but channel your inner entrepreneur, your inner leader, and think about the audience. Think about there's somebody out there who is, looking to grow their business, or maybe just getting a business started, maybe venturing into the world of entrepreneurship or scaling. What's the best piece of advice that you can give that person?
I mean, the best piece of advice I wish someone had told me about 10 years earlier than I started was just do it. The first year is brutal. That's what I would say. Your first year, if you have enough cash in the bank, or you can get by about a year, you'll be fine. And I would say it's probably coming anyway. We're looking at large scale layoffs right now in the economy. And so I think it's a matter of time, honestly, before a lot of people are going to be forced to learn. I saw an article, apparently new business submissions to the Small Business Administration were up like 40% last year, which was a crazy big leap. And so I believe owning a business, here's what I would say. You work for someone else, you technically do own a business. You only have one client. That's the thing, right? And so you can do it because you're doing it right now with one client. So starting a business, you just have to jump and burn the bridge, and you will be fine. Trust me, you will be just fine. Get a team around you that can support you. I would say hire early, find skilled, people that can surround you. And it always helps. I love, I think it was Alex Hormozy's book. He talks about starting a business that has a tailwind. So it's really cool with my AI business. I only started it probably less than a year ago, but there's such a tailwind right now in that. Yeah. I'm not selling, we joked about insurance before I hopped on. Like, I'm not selling insurance, right? I'm not selling phone books. I'm selling something that people actually want right now. which is they want to figure out how to implement AI in their businesses. And so if you start in a space that has a tailwind like that, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to do the work, because there's a lot more demand. If I go to a networking meeting and I say, hey, I own an AI agency, all of a sudden I'm like one of the most popular guys in the room, because every business owner there is still trying to figure out how to get their head around the AI stuff.
Yep.
So I would say jump, burn the boats, plan out about a year of it being brutal, and do something that has a tailwind.
Love it, man. Hey, Andrew, it's been awesome hanging out. And for those of you who are listening, watching, if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching the episode. And if you're listening, you can watch on YouTube, or you can listen in the car. We're on all the different platforms, the Start Build Grow Show. Please like, subscribe, comment, connect with myself, connect with Andrew. Check out some of our other episodes, share it with somebody that you think can get some value from it. It doesn't happen without you. So I'm very, very grateful for our audience and the amazing listeners and viewers out there. And Andrew, once again, what's the quickest website? What's the best way to get a hold of you again?
So probably use my Hathaway company. So it's Andrew at Hathaway-companies.com. And if you're listening and you have been thinking about having your strategy call with Randy and you haven't booked it yet, this is your sign that it's time to do that.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. All right, everybody, take care. Take care, Andrew. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We had a great convo. And for everybody out there, have a blessed day. Take care. God bless.